The video you're about to watch isn't made to teach you to believe or support one country over the other. It's intended to help you become educated in regards to what's happening in our world and why it is happening. At this point, we no longer have a necessity to study war. However, economically, the governments and the corporations desire us to continue to do so. Mark Twain once said, "Patriotism is supporting your country all the time, and your government when it deserves it." This is true more now than ever.
What is happening in Mexico? You might have already heard about the Mayan train, a giant railway connecting the beautiful paradise beaches of Cancun and Tulum to the ancient civilizations of Palenque and the lost city of Campeche. And you might have heard about the Tulum International Airport that the military is building in record time. There's a couple things about this airport which no one's talking about, which I think tell a far bigger story. The first one is that there's 28 private jet terminals. I think that gives you an indication of what's happening with the tourism and the growth in this region. The second one is the runway. It's 3.7 kilometers long, far beyond what you need for passengers. It's for cargo. There's also a Tulum Mayan train station connected to the airport. Now this Mayan train network is going to plug into the Interoceanic Railway. That is going to be a giant conveyor belt connecting the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. It's faster, cheaper, and more efficient than the Panama Canal, and it'll move about 1.4 million containers a year. This is plugging in the southeast of Mexico into the entire east side of the United States, which makes up about 42% of its GDP. On top of all of that, you have the nearshoring movement, which is bringing a lot of manufacturing away from China and towards Mexico. Tourism, logistics, and manufacturing. Mexico is making money moves.
Trained not to care at all. And they should care, both because we're no longer the most powerful country in the world. So you have this big power, Russia, which is the world's largest landmass, with the world's largest reserve of energy, natural gas, and the world's largest nuclear arsenal. And then you have this other country, China, which is the world's largest population, 1.3 billion, the world's largest economy. And each one of those is potentially pretty formidable. But if they get together, the world's largest population, the world's largest landmass, largest economy, largest energy reserves, together in a block against you, no, you're no longer the most powerful.
So in the news, we learned that China has developed supersonic weapons against which the West really has no means of defense. This is pretty concerning. Because of this, we did a podcast conversation with an expert on China's military history, and it's just fascinating. For example, did you know that the Empire of Tibet at one point conquered and held China's capital? Or did you know that every Chinese empire has strived to regain and outdo the territories of the previous empire? So now the CCP wants to regain the Qing dynasty's territories, which included arguably Taiwan.
你说什么
China 是中国。
你最喜欢的国家吗？那你最讨厌的国呢？
就是美国和日本。
这么讨厌啊？为什么呢？
因为他们学韩国知道，南京大屠杀我当然也知道，我都会历史。
这么厉害？那你长大了想干什么呢？
想杀日本人，想杀美国人。
好，回去吧，坐着吧。
所以也把中国
Were I a Jew, I would be a Zionist. And my father pointed out to me, I did not need to be a Jew to be a Zionist. For I am. For I am. Israel is essential to the security of Jews worldwide.
Mr. President, after today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that you used earlier this year.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is the guy who runs a country that is a communist country.
Good day. We're coming on the air with breaking news near San Francisco, where President Biden is sitting down for a high-stakes meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This will be their first meeting in over a year. Since then, tensions have risen dramatically between the two countries. The U.S. shot down a Chinese spy balloon. The Chinese military has made aggressive maneuvers toward American military aircraft and ships. And there have been sharp disagreements over Taiwan. Also in the backdrop, the wars in both Israel and Ukraine, two major U.S. allies with huge implications for democracy abroad. You see moments ago, the two leaders going into the building where they will have this meeting. Let's go to Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander, who's traveling with the president. Give us the lay of the land there, Peter, if you will.
Lester, we've really seen what is one of the world's most consequential relationships devolve in the course of the last year. You noted the backdrop to this visit today. It's been really in a downward spiral, and the president's priority, as much as any other today, is really to try to stabilize that relationship as the two men meet today. President Biden will be joined by some of his top advisors, the Secretary of State, the Treasury Secretary, his climate envoy, John Kerry, among those expected to be in the room today. The president expected to press President Xi on a series of issues, as you noted, the close ties China has with both Iran and Russia right now, that combative approach toward Taiwan, and of course, the theft of technology and hacking and trade. We are told by White House officials not to expect any major breakthroughs in this conversation, really just to lower the temperature in many ways. But there is one key takeaway that we're going to be watching for today, Lester, the possibility that these two agree to military communications once again. There has been a collapse in those talks in the last year. Another thing we'll be watching, of course, is on the issue of fentanyl, the opioid crisis, where it's possible that the two announce a joint working group of some kind, that they will come together to try to combat the illegal flow of the ingredients used to produce fentanyl. Today, I was struck in that conversation by the warmth of the tone, but also the acknowledgement from President Xi saying that there have been twists and turns in this relationship, an understatement to say the least. But he said that the planet is big enough for both countries and that one country's success does not need to come at the expense of the other. President Biden saying among his priorities is to make sure that this relationship remains a competition and does not veer into conflict here. But, you know, despite the warm language that the two men shared in that brief visit that we saw on camera, there are some real tough issues that they will need to discuss here. Among those, a point that Christopher Wray, the FBI director himself, made before Congress earlier today, that China is responsible for more hacking, more theft of intellectual property than any country in the world. He said more than every other country combined. So there are so many issues as it relates to the wars in the Middle East and Russia, obviously, to the theft of technology and the topic of trade, all of them on the agenda.
Joe Biden was in San Francisco for a summit with China, looking like he had absolutely no idea where he was, what was happening, what the hell he was supposed to do. He walked up with a man who looks like a piece of granite, right? He's strong like granite. He's strong. I know him very well. President Xi of China. Very smart people. These are very smart people. But they're dealing with very stupid people. Our leader is a stupid person. Our leader can't get off this stage. You see this stage? When he's finished with a speech, by the time whatever it is he's taking wears off, and he's looking. Okay, thank you. Thank you. How do I leave? That's what happened.
Instead of using the millions of dollars worth of steel fencing that the U.S. government already purchased in order to protect the U.S. southern border, Well, the Biden administration is instead currently in the process of auctioning it off to the highest bidder. I repeat, those giant steel slats that President Trump bought in order to build the wall are now being auctioned off to the public for pennies on the dollar. Furthermore, according to new reports, some parts of the wall that have actually been built are now being left wide open, allowing people to walk straight in. And the Border Patrol agents who are on the ground are not even able to close the wall because their superiors ordered that the doors not just be opened, but be welded open. Now, if that all sounds too ridiculous to be true.
11:14 at night, I'm James Langford. Want to be able to give you a quick update. I'm in McAllen, Texas, literally right at the Texas-Mexico border. This is one of the underground processing areas that has been set up literally under a bridge. This is a bridge that moves from Mexico into the United States. This is where families are actually coming and unaccompanied minors will just show up here during the night. And like I said, it's about 11:14 at night right now. They'll show up. I'll kind of turn around here so you can see it. That far end down there, the bright spot, that's Mexico right down there. They'll show up down in that spot. They'll be able to walk through. They're picked up by Border Patrol here. They're organized. They get their name, their information. They'll go through a very basic screening where basically they're asked, do you feel well, kind of thing, with a basic screening. They'll get their name and information. If they have a child that's 6 years old or younger, or they're unaccompanied minor, but they can have like 10 people together that all say they're family, and if they have one child that's 5 or 6 years old, then all these folks will be released tonight into McAllen, Texas. Literally within a couple of hours from when they walk up from Mexico, they'll go through the basic processing here, and all these folks will be released into the United States tonight with what's called a notice to appear. It's a piece of paperwork saying you've got to show up at a court hearing. Some of those court hearings are 3 years later. So literally they're into the country for the next 3 years. So they'll walk up way down there. They'll come through some basic processing here, and you can see, I don't know how many are here right now. And then there's buses here at the end, and those buses will take them into the central part of McAllen, Texas, and they'll just be released at a bus station from there, and they can go anywhere in the country that they want to be able to go with that update. This is the problem. This is one of the areas that the media is not allowed to be able to come into. That's why I wanted to be able to be here, to be able to see it and say, this is the thing that Biden does not want you to see, is that literally people walk across the border, they check in here, and they are all released. 100% of the people that are here tonight will be released. So this is absolutely an open border situation. Anyone who wants to come in from any country in the world, if you walk onto this bridge here in McAllen, Texas, on the Mexico side of it, and get here, and you pay the cartels to actually come up to this area. So the cartels make you pay a fee to be able to come here on the Mexico side. Then they come in here and they're all released. So no matter what your background is, no matter who you are, if you come through this spot right here, you're going to be released. This is what open borders really looks like, and this is why this is a problem.
Israeli-Palestinian conflict is going to absolutely change our entire Middle East policy, and it already has. The previous Trump administration was working on essentially making Israel safe and secure and getting along with all the Arab nations. You had deals between Israel and Egypt, deals between Israel and Jordan, deals between Israel and Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, all lining up during the Trump admin. That was all continued through the Biden admin. But then we had the Ukraine war. Now there's more evidence that Russia is deeply involved in at least funding Hamas through Iran or through training some of these people.
The Chinese are actually feeling the heat of their own policy errors, in particular economic. Growing alarm that China is having to feel because of, frankly, almost the entire world's response to Chinese economic, political, and military aggressiveness.
Their exports have gone down, their employment has gone down, young people are praying for jobs, temple visits have gone up. So all of this is causing Xi for a rethink or a recalibration.
No leader, no country will do anything that they don't imagine is in their own interest. And it is important for every economy to have as robust growth as possible.
चीन की आर्मी बहुत बड़ी है, हमारी आर्मी से कहीं ज्यादा बड़ी, लेकिन चीन देश भी बहुत बड़ा है। तो हालांकि उनकी सेना बड़ी है, उनकी सिक्योरिटी चैलेंजेस भी हमारे से कहीं ज्यादा हैं। जितना हमारे से ताल्लुक है, वन ऑन वन इक्वल है।
Okay.
अभी लद्दाख में जितनी डिप्लॉयमेंट उन्होंने की है पिछले 3 साल, उन्होंने 2020 में जो की, हमने भी उसी 2020 में उनको वो डिप्लॉयमेंट करके दिखाई मतलब हम ये एक ऑपरेशनल रिक्वायरमेंट थी और हमने कर ली। चीन ने उम्मीद नहीं की थी कि हम वो डिप्लॉयमेंट कर पाएंगे सर्दियों शुरू से होने से पहले, क्योंकि उसके बाद सर्दियों में वो सड़कें बंद हो जाती हैं। और पिछले 3 साल में हमारा रोड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर लद्दाख में इस कदर बढ़ गया है कि चीन को भी हैरानी होती है, और चीन ने 2 बार DSDBO रोड।
आप जानते हैं कि पाकिस्तान का एक ऐसा रीजन है जो चाइना से नफरत करता है, जिसका नाम है बलूचिस्तान। पर ऐसा क्यों? दोस्तों, चाइना ने अपने बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव को लेकर रिसेंटली ग्लोबली बिलियंस ऑफ डॉलर्स की इन्वेस्टमेंट करी है, और उसी के अंडर पाकिस्तान में CPEC यानी कि चाइना पाकिस्तान इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर डेवलप किया जा रहा है, जिसका एक इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट बलूचिस्तान भी है। कहने को ये एक इकोनॉमिक प्रोजेक्ट है, पर चाइना के मिलिट्री एम्बिशंस इससे डीपली जुड़े हुए हैं, और इसी वजह से बलूचिस्तान के लोग ये दावा करते हैं कि पाकिस्तान के साथ बलूचिस्तान में चाइना का ये इन्वॉल्वमेंट उनके इंडिपेंडेंस मूवमेंट को वीकन कर रहा है और उनके लोगों के खिलाफ एक साजिश रच रहा है। और वो इसीलिए क्योंकि चाइनीज प्रोजेक्ट्स में ज्यादातर चाइनीज नेशनलिस्ट को ही प्रायोरिटी दी जाती है। बलूचिस्तान के लोगों को जनरली लो वेजेस में जॉब्स पर रखा जाता है, और साथ ही में करंटली पाकिस्तान की नेचुरल गैस सप्लाई का 17% बलूचिस्तान प्रोड्यूस करता है और कंज्यूम सिर्फ 7% करता है। इस एक्सट्रीम एक्सप्लॉयटेशन और हिपोक्रेट बिहेवियर की वजह से बलूचिस्तान पाकिस्तान और चाइना दोनों से आजादी चाहता है।
Is part of it. That's why they can bullshit their way anything. But at the end of the day, Milei, the Argentinian guy's waving the Zionist flag. Same with, Booby Kennedy, as I call him, right? Right when October 7th, all people need to do is look what happened on October 7th and just see how these people responded, and you'll know who's evil and who's on the side of good. Right there, you'll see it.
Doctor, I am someone who is extremely against genocide, human suffering of any kind. Whether you are a Jew or whether you are Arab, you are not responsible for whatever the elite create conflict for. Okay.
Yeah.
We both know that there is gas in Gaza worth 524 billion. This is not even my opinion. If you Google it,
200 trillion cubic feet.
Yes, but it's worth $524 billion.
Yes.
I found it in the website of the United Nations for Conference and Development. It's not even my own opinion. You can go check it out. So I'm a firm believer that nothing happens by coincidence. Okay, they have the Hamas, they have the Israeli. Maybe Hamas have people who work for them in Israel. Maybe Israel have people who work for them in Gaza. I have no idea what's going on behind the scene, but my heart aching for the people who are dying, the innocent people, whether they are Jews or whether they are Arabs, man, these are innocent people and shouldn't be involved, shouldn't be dying in wars.
Well, what's happened, Jakov, is if you look back at the history of, actually, if you look at Zionism, Nazism, even Indian Brahmanism, you see in India they have the Hindu religion, and they created this thing called Brahmanism, which basically said these small set of people who are Brahmins are better than everyone else. Nazis said they were better than everyone else.
Exactly.
Right? So what's fascinating is Zionism uses the Star of David, which actually comes from India. Nazism uses the swastika, which comes from India. And the Brahmins in India were all supporting the Zionist butchering of the Palestinians. So these people are related because they all believe in this concept that a small set of people can butcher and cause suffering to the other. So even in Germany, when Jews wanted to fight Hitler, the anti-fascist movement, the Zionists were a very small group. And the majority of Jews thought these Zionists were nuts. And Hitler actually wanted the Zionists. And then the Zionists collaborated with the Nazis to butcher Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto. So many Jews have also been brainwashed to thinking Zionism equals Judaism. When the guy who created Zionism he was an atheist. He had nothing to do with even religion.
No, yes, there's a big difference between Zionism is a movement, Judaism is a religion.
One is a political ideology. Nazism has nothing to do with Christianity. It's a political ideology.
100%.
Brahmanism has nothing to do with Hinduism. It's a political ideology. So people are taking stuff from a religion because they know it affects people emotionally and then wrapping it around a political ideology. Ultimately, it's a small set of people. So getting back to it's ultimately a class war. And they do not want everyday people, Palestinians, be they Arabs, right? Be they Jews, be the working people of the world to unite and smash these guys. So it's a constant barrage of psychological operations on people. That's what it is. It's
Exactly.
24/7 psychological operation.
Do you understand so far the point of this video? It's to show how we all in this whole world are living in a rapidly changing environment. Of course, since the events of the First and Second World War and every other global and international conflict that's occurred since then, the powers and corporations of this planet have been working in engineering, socially, a new construct where economies can be merged together so that the future that will be engineered and developed can be built upon one focused on the concept of kingdoms. How much of what occurs in our day-to-day lives is a psyop or a controlled narrative? The propaganda that they utilize to confuse people into thinking that their president has been indicted and is facing possible jail time. See, that's the point exactly. Is they want you confused. They want you thinking all kinds of things are happening. That our world itself is in turmoil. That if it isn't nuclear wars and fears of China and its invasion of the United States, or the murdering and genociding of innocent Palestinian people or Native Americans, they want you to believe that there is terror and danger around every corner. They want you waking up thinking there's something to be afraid of. They want you going to sleep thinking there's something to be afraid of. And that's the typical behavior of the Democratic Party. Though it's merged into different administrations to serve different agendas, that's just the game they play. So we have to see that they are actually working together hand in hand in order to build a world system of empires to carry us into the future of a corporate intergalactic system, interplanetary system, where the economic empires of Mars can trade with the corporate economic empires of the United States and the United Arab States and the United Africa States, as Muammar Gaddafi had attempted to build. But they don't want other players coming in on their pie. It's their pie. It's a big club, and we're not part of it. So the final moment would be to consider what in fact is happening and what isn't. And the answer to that is simple. Palestine is being erased so that Israel can expand and build its $1 trillion a year industry empire off of the reserves that have been recently discovered there. China's building its road system throughout the world. Russia's building its road system and freight system and trading system throughout the world. It's nothing other than what I'm stating. They know very well in advance the way things will play out because they have think tanks and artificial intelligence systems that allow themselves to consider these things to length. And they know how the public will respond. They know what wars are necessary. They know that there's an issue that's taking place in Ukraine that needs to be resolved, and an issue in Taiwan. That war will be a silent one. That will be a quick exchanging of hands. Tesla factories will pop up in India. New microchip and superconducting processing chips will pop up somewhere else in the United States. That way each kingdom can have its proper rights to resources. It's nothing different. It's worked out really well this way over the course of history. And unfortunately, certain innocent people stand in the way of progress. Now, again, I don't support any party or any administration or any of these agendas. This information has been simply brought to you in a safe and pleasant manner so you can consider these things for yourself and choose and think and act accordingly. Most people in this world choose to profit off of this. They learn how to use stocks, they learn how to work in hedge funds, they learn corporate law, they learn how to profit off of this system. It's your choice how you choose to exist in it. Subjects I've covered today does leave room for a little further consideration regarding why America has food that's peddled to their people that makes them sick. And a good answer for that is that it was cheap and efficient. And a byproduct of that was the pharmaceutical industries began to make billions of dollars off of our illnesses. So why stop something or discontinue a flow of revenue from something that works. This may seem cynical and nihilistic, but I'm embodying some of their persona in this presentation, of course. Their humor does belong in news and politics. So, it's financially in their best interest to keep things the way they are, and in our interest to stop them from being the way they are.
And also they're called the Peaky Blinders because they're so razor blades into the brims of their caps to use as a weapon.
2, 1.